Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we are going to be taking a first look at the demo for Task Force Admiral, upcoming game being made by Dry Dock Dream Games, published by Microprose, and the demo just came out on Steam. Well, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching the VOD on YouTube, it came out yesterday. If you're watching this live, then it came out today. And this is a real-time naval combat game set in 1942 and 43. It looks at the early war carrier actions, sort of the most famous carrier actions, really, with the exception of maybe a Leyte Gulf and Marianas Turkey Shoot. But like in terms of when the war was competitive, before before all of the American industry kicked in, and that's what this particular game is going to be looking at, the carrier actions then. So Coral Sea, Midway, the Solomon Islands, some of the raids of the Marshalls and other things like that occurring a little bit earlier in the war. This game looks at those particular conflicts. They're calling it Task Force Admiral Vol.1. Perhaps Volume 2 will be, the later war, if that ever happens. But this game just released a demo on Steam. It is free. Anybody can go and download it and pick it up. And it is, I believe the intent behind doing the demo when they did was they simultaneously, as you might see by this little K up in the upper right-hand corner, launched a Kickstarter for the game. Now, they do have the publisher Microprose, as we've said, so the game should get made either way, right? The publisher's job is to backstop a game and to advertise a game and make sure that it, the developer, they help the developer make sure their game happens. What the Kickstarter is looking at doing, at least the justification I have heard behind that, is that, hey, listen, Microprose in the 90s was famous for having really robust physical manuals, and if we want to bring a little bit back of that sort of old school Microprose. But selling a game for 40 or 50 bucks nowadays, usually the economics behind that do not support that kind of a model where you're providing physical stuff. Actually, Matrix and Slytherin games are in the process, I think, as we're speaking, of ending their support for physical manuals, which is really a shame because, like, War in the East had this like 300-page manual. I think War in the West had like this 300-page color hardbound manual. They were really cool things. And I think they want to bring a little bit of that element here to Task Force Admiral. So you get different perks depending on the tiers that you subscribe or that you donate to in the Kickstarter. There's digital tiers where you get like wallpapers and access to like custom soundtracks, which some games do on Steam, where you get like an OST soundtrack if you pay a little bit more. But then if you go up to the next tiers, that's where you start getting some of the physical goodies, physical manuals, physical postcards, the kind of things that we're talking about. Like, if you bought Falcon 4.0 back in the day, I still got a wire-bound, 300-page manual I could strap to my knee like I was a fighter pilot, if I wanted to. And so I think that's what they're trying to bring back a little bit with the manual. But with that being said, that's enough of me yip-yapping. Why don't we actually play this game? So the demo that is available has sort of 3 game modes. There's a fleet defense game mode, a battle generator, and a single scenario. The fleet defense is where you basically are in the cockpit of American fighters trying to intercept a raid that's coming for your task force. This game, this is like a standalone thing. The scenarios in the battle generator don't let you take command of fighters. This is very much sort of a, right now anyway, my understanding is the game, eventually, when the game releases, they want you to have the ability to jump into the cockpit and fly a plane and fight within your carrier action. Right now, the demo has the fleet defense as a standalone sort of, hey, this is the concept of it. But if you play the scenario or the battle generator, you can't do that. It's almost like they're 2 separate sort of games within the demo, just sort of showing you the concept of what that'll look like. So keep that in mind with the fleet defense. That is what they want you to be able to do eventually, but obviously right now, if you go into the scenarios, you can't do that. So you can go ahead and play the battle generator. If you go in here, you can create your own scenarios. Now, the demo is basically of the Coral Sea battle, so you have 1 or 2 carriers for the Americans or for the Japanese, and actually the Japanese get 3, so they must get their CVE as well. But in any event, so the Americans, you can have either 1 carrier or 2. The carriers are Yorktown and Lexington. You can kind of set all of this up. You get a little bit of information about the scenario, and then it randomly generates a battle based on the inputs you put here. This isn't what we're going to do today, but this is a feature within the demo. So if you want to do that and have a little bit more dynamism to the demo, because there is only one sort of scripted scenario in the game right now, then you can do that. Now, if you go to the scenarios, this game has a pretty ambitious scenario list here. You can see on the left side there's different campaigns you can choose from. You've got the early battles of December 41 to April of 42, relieving Wake, ambushing Yamaguchi, payback at Tarawa. Some of these are hypothetical scenarios like ambushing Yamaguchi. Some of them are historical scenarios like raiding Rabaul. Actually, that is hypothetical in February 42. But the Doolittle raid, that's historical. Or Halsey's Dilemma, maybe that's like a hypothetical Doolittle raid. I'm not sure. But you can see there's a lot of scenarios just for the early battles. Then there's Coral Sea, which has a number of scenarios. This is where things start to get a little bit larger. Then you've got Fortress Midway, which is the Battle of Midway. Again, like another 6 scenarios here within the Midway action. 2 of them are historical, and the rest of them are hypotheticals from Midway. It looks like most of them for Coral Sea are historical. And then all the way down here, you've got Watchtower. So you've got the Guadalcanal and the Solomon Islands campaigns, if you will. So you've got Operation Shoestring, Mika and Friends, which is hypothetical. So you've got all these different scenarios. Now, you can't play these in the demo, right? This is what the full version of the game is shooting for. So, yeah, they want to have over 30 scenarios. This is going to be a scenario-driven game. It does have the sandbox battle generator, but it is at its core going to be a scenario-driven game when it does come out. The scenario that is available for the demo is of Cranes and Patriots. It is May 8th, 1942. So the second day, I believe, of Coral Sea, or maybe Coral Sea started on the 6th. I'd have to take a look. But it is sort of the second day of, like, actual fleet carrier actions going against fleet carriers. And there's a really good briefing. I love what they did with the briefing here that we're going to watch in just a second, going into kind of telling you the situation that we find ourselves in this particular scenario. You can see it is a 2-day long scenario. It is I guess a higher difficulty scenario, 3 out of 4 stars. Historical is complexity. It's kind of mid-range complexity. You've got 2 carriers, the Yorktown and the Lexington. And both of these carriers are no longer at full strength. They fought a little bit the day before. They sank the Hosho, I believe it is, the light carrier on the day before. The Japanese, meanwhile, sank the Neosho, I think it was, the oiler, where they thought it was a carrier. But we'll get all that information here in the briefing. So why don't we just go ahead and jump in here to the briefing.
It's early morning on May 8th, 1942. Task Force 17, under the command of Vice Admiral Fletcher, has been roaming the Coral Sea for 7 days in an attempt to prevent a Japanese invasion of Port Moresby. The carriers USS Yorktown and USS Lexington were quite active and successful the day before. The American air groups managed to sink a light Japanese carrier with minimal losses, forcing the invasion force to loiter in fear of facing overwhelming odds on its way around the New Guinean Peninsula. In the meantime, the American carriers were left untouched. Japanese search efforts were rendered fruitless due to a number of mistakes and communication hurdles. Despite being spotted, Task Force 17 managed to escape the attention of enemy air power, as bombers from Rabaul focused fruitlessly on the Anzac Surface Combat Squadron, led by Admiral Crace, standing guard on the road to Port Moresby. As for the main Japanese carrier force, they attacked in droves the oiler USS Neosho and her escort USS Sims, mistakenly identifying them as a carrier force. Realizing their blunder, the Japanese aircraft launched a late afternoon search and destroy attack against the American carriers. Lost in bad weather, they were intercepted by American fighter cover and suffered crippling losses. Plus, to add insult to injury, they came across their target in the darkness on their way home and even tried to land, mistaking the American carriers for their own. But the Americans know that it was far too much luck for one day. Admirals Tagagi and Hara are going to be doing everything they can to wash away the humiliation suffered the previous day and show the combined fleet that Carrier Division 5 crews are not to be trifled with. Now, Admiral Fletcher has elected not to send a surface fleet ahead so as not to weaken his protection screen and leave these ships vulnerable at daybreak, a move he will be heavily criticized for in the coming weeks. It's now up to you to decide what to do next. The position of the enemy carriers is estimated to be within combat range northeast of Task Force 17's current position, but no one can predict with any accuracy the moves of the enemy. Enemy opposition is deemed challenging. The Japanese air group's been badly hurt by their ill-advised evening attack hours ago, but they are still going to be packing a punch. Expect to be going toe-to-toe with about 60 to 70 enemy Zero fighters, dive bombers, and torpedo bomber crewed by professionals, some of them veterans of many campaigns. As for the Americans, your own air groups are in good shape but are still suffering from a low number of available fighters, which will force you to make some tough calls. Should you escort your bombers as a priority or protect your carriers? It's your job to figure out how to best prepare for the first real carrier-to-carrier engagement of the war. Your objective is to seek out the enemy carrier force, engage it, and inflict heavy damage to force the Japanese Navy to abandon its move against Port Moresby. You're to retire to the south at the end of your operation. Good luck.
Yeah, okay, that was a long briefing, but I think it was very well done. It felt, one of the things, and I won't go too far into this, but one of the things I always feel like with war games nowadays, and honestly even Sea Power a little bit, is like the icing around the cake always feels so haphazard, right? Like even if a game looks great like Sea Power, the briefings, the atmosphere, it just doesn't feel like the game has a world that you exist in, and it doesn't feel like games set the stage. I think Battlestar Galactica Deadlock, or whatever that Slytherin game, is a perfect example. Great space combat, but the menus, the briefings, everything around it just felt so cheap. And I think that's, and again, I won't go too far into this, but I think that's one of the things that always stood out to me about Sid Meier's Gettysburg, and one reason that I think is so good is because you've got, but for every scenario, you've got these briefings with voice actors and graphics where they're indicating what's happening on the map. They're talking about the battle as if they're in it, and that just brings the whole thing to life in a way that Sid Meier's Antietam didn't, Scourge of War never did, Ultimate General never did. And I know those are like minor things from a gameplay perspective, but they add so much to a game in terms of making that feel like, oh, this isn't just a shoestring game made by someone in the basement, which is fine because I enjoy games like that. But I think that's one of the things, like, you get flavor and character and polish and production value in any other genre except in, to some extent, strategy generally, and definitely in war games. And so I really appreciate what we saw here for the briefing. But you can also see there's a full briefing here, optional, that you can read through. A lot of information, pretty much all the same stuff that they told you before. You do have surface assets here, so it goes into the Task Force 17 under Rear Admiral Fletcher. I think he gets a little bit maligned, maybe unfairly, during his career during World War II. He kind of was like in all the key carrier actions early in the war and then just gets shunted off because King doesn't think he does a good enough job of being aggressive, and I don't know, it feels like he's a little bit of an underappreciated character. Spruance, obviously, and Halsey massively surpass his reputation, and they were great admirals in their own respect, but I do think put a little bit of respect on Fletcher's name. He was in all the key battles that turned the tide of the war, and I think that says something, even if maybe he wasn't as aggressive as some people would like. But you can see here we've got two sort of half task forces. Task Force 17.5 with 2 carriers and 4 destroyers. And then we've got 5 cruisers and 3 destroyers also supporting under Rear Admiral Kincaid, all under the 17th Task Force. Air assets here, you can see if we scroll down here, we have 14 F4, F3 Wildcats. Those are our fighters. On the Yorktown, we've got 17 on the Lexington for a grand total of 31 fighter aircraft, which is very, very small. The game does tell you that in the briefing. You don't have enough fighters. 31 fighters is not enough to defend your fleet against an enemy rate of 50 or 60 aircraft, let alone trying to escort your own aircraft in their attacks. And that was a problem in terms of, do you send your bombers out unescorted? Do you send them with a skeleton escort but make your carriers vulnerable because you don't have enough to go with them? On the attack aircraft, we're in better shape. The Yorktown has 2 squadrons, VB5 and VS5, I guess, 32 SBDs, those are dive bombers, and 9 TBDs, those are torpedo bombers, on VT5. The Lexington also has 2 dive bomber groups, 15 and 18 respectively, and then 12 torpedo bombers in VT2. So you've got 33 dive bombers on the Lexington and 12 torpedo bombers. All told, you have 117 aircraft at your disposal. I should have read this down here. Oh, I was doing the math in my head, and it's like, oh, it says this right here on the screen in front of me. 31 fighters, 65 dive bombers, 21 torpedo bombers. I guess even though Port Moresby has a new number of Army and Australian air assets at their disposal, they're dedicated to the defense of the base and are currently searching for the enemy invasion convoy. This is a sensible choice, considering that our poor coordination until now makes their added value in the event of a carrier duel, especially so far south, rather questionable. And also, if you look at what happened at Midway, other than claiming credit, other than B-17s claiming that they won the battle by themselves, the air out of Midway didn't do a whole lot. Let's see here. The main opposing force remains what is believed to be a carrier task force centered around the modern carriers Shokaku and Suikaku. I think I'm pronouncing those correct-ish. And then some other escort carriers with them. Large enemy composite carrier air group mirroring ours, anywhere between 60 to 80 aircraft of all 3 kinds. Recent encounter with our fighter cover probably reduced the complement of 1, if not 2 bomber squadrons, which should put us in a favorable position of relative superiority in terms of sheer bomb load. But, you know, in all of these earlier carrier actions, it was about who got there first. Also expect further coverage from Rabaul, Tulagi, Shortland Islands by long-range bomber and heavy seaplanes. Oh. Some shipborne seaplane activity just north of Luisides is highly likely too. Okay, well, I mean, this is a 2-day-long scenario too, so let's go ahead and jump in. We've been going for almost 20 minutes on this recording anyway, and we haven't actually done anything yet, so. I don't think either of the Japanese carriers took part in Midway, did they? Okay, fine, skeptical. The PBYs at Midway did fine. I'm mostly talking about the attack aircraft at Midway did nothing. Yes, the reconnaissance aircraft at Midway, absolutely valuable. All right, so you can see here we are on, I guess, maybe the command bridge. You've got a map here. You've got fleet management screen here. And this is sort of the main 3D image within the ship of the, that you get in this game in terms of clickable stuff. A little bit like Destroyer, the U-Boat Command, or even Silent Hunter in terms of like, all right, you're in a room and you got stuff to click on, but you don't like walk around the room or anything. So if we go to the fleet management tab here, just go ahead and double click here. This is a pretty cool little indicator, like the center of the entire task force is around the Yorktown, CV5. We've also got Lexington up here, and then you can see all of our escorts sort of circled around here. One thing I would like them to do is to make some of these menus clickable and draggable, because I can't move left or right to like center this, and I can minimize windows, but that's not always what I want to do. In any event, you can use your mouse wheel to scroll in and out of the task force to get closer or further. You can also go ahead and edit your formations here in this formation editor. If we go ahead and we edit this, we've got one preset right now, which is sort of this formation that's laid out here. But if we go ahead and edit the preset, we can like move these different groups around here and put them at different ranges. If we like hover over and, drop them on one of these bands here around the task force, it'll move that whole selection, that whole I guess, group of ships around to that location. So can I move the Lexington out? No, the Lexington's anchored to the Yorktown, isn't it? So you can't move that. But you can take these destroyers here, the Morris, which I believe has 4 destroyers with it. And if we wanted to put them way out here as kind of a screen, we could do that. You can see all these different destroyers then move out to the outer ring. We could move the Chester and her 2 other cruisers in. And you can see, you can make those changes, if you will. Different scales, 5,000, 10,000, and whatnot. We're not going to change anything with that. I think I'm fine with this. It looks like this task force, if enemy aircraft are approaching from either flank, they're going to have to go through a wall of 5 to 6 ships on either flank. If they're coming from ahead or from a stern, a little bit lighter. But again, even if they're coming up from the rear, they go over a destroyer, and they're probably getting hit on the flanks from 2 cruisers and some destroyers along the way. So this feels like a good layout for our task force. I don't really think I need to change anything there. Meanwhile, also fleet information. So we can go here and we can see different information about the ships within the fleet. So if we click on the ships over here on the left side, we can see this task force 17.51 is the flagship is Lexington. Is that for the whole thing? Yeah. It's also for the whole shebang. But if we click on the ship, we can see Yorktown's captain is Elliot Buckmaster. It's in formation. It's part of Task Force 17. We've also got the... did I just change the... Oh, no. So the whole task force is, as I said, Yorktown. Lexington is, for some reason, the sub-task force head flagship, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but whatever. We've also got Captain Frederick Sherman, who's the captain of the Lexington, the CV-2. You've got information about the ships here as well. Propulsion, steering, ammo, all green, all full. No indication of any flooding, fire, or whatever damage. You've got different information here, which if you were in an engagement, it might tell you gun target, torpedo target. Are your lights on? Are you dropping smoke? Are your searchlights on? All of that kind of jazz. Not really relevant right now because it is 3:42, not the hours. It is 03 about to be 04 hours. So it's in the middle of the night, boys. It's like, 12:04, if you will, in 12-hour terms. But you can also click on some of the stuff here to see where information is on these ships. So you get the little graphic down here of each ship you click on. And if you want to see, hey, where's their ammunition and their weapons, you've got all of this information here that show up as little green dots. As ships take damage, those could change colors to indicate they're out of action or they're damaged. You can see like, hey, these are our sensors. Like, what does this look like? So you've got these different sensor sections here. Here's the different gun platforms. You've also got, I guess, what are these? Main guns and then secondary or anti-aircraft guns. You've got aircraft items here, so elevators, hangars. You've got propulsion items here, so different shafts and boilers, and repair facilities here, pumps, damage control sections. And then I guess maybe this would show any fires or flooding if we clicked on this, but there's nothing there right now. So a lot of cool information on these graphics down here that is nifty. We already did the formation editor. Defensive air ops we'll talk a little bit more about later, but you can create combat air patrols. Can't really do anything at night. I mean, I could, but they wouldn't take off till the sun comes up, so not a lot for them to do right now. And then you've also got fighter direction here where you can see the different patrols that are out and what are their orders and who's in charge. And you can automate this. Fido is in charge right now with this little check mark. But if you want to manage it, if you want to manage scrambling fighters, defending the base, focusing on torpedo bombers or dive bombers, if you want to issue those orders to your fighter groups, you just unclick this and then whichever one is relevant pops up and you can choose those orders. This game does a really good job, in the demo anyway, of automating key functions so that it doesn't require you to micromanage. In some sense, it can be plan your missions, send your aircraft out, and then watch what happens. Very much more of like a task of a task force commander, or even just sort of a CAG, and less so like a micromanagey, tell every single ship where it should go and what it should do. You're the commander of a fleet. You don't need to tell where a destroyer individually needs to shoot. But you might give other orders like when you want to launch an airstrike. So pretty neat there as well. If we go, so we already looked at fighter direction, defensive air ops. We go to the plot. So you can see here, this is where I wish there was more ability to move menus around. So you can see I can move the map up and down. This map doesn't really go left or right, which makes me feel really cramped with the task force off center here. But based on our intelligence last night at 2100 hours, enemy carriers are estimated to be in this red circle. Our own task force is down here. And apparently we've got a waypoint we're transiting to. I think I can... I don't know if I can order where these guys should go. Yeah, you can add waypoints. So you can order your ships where you want them to go in terms of the task force. But the task force is down here, and then you've got the, you know, the plot map up here. So presumably this scenario is really going to be focused around the carrier action. You can't even scroll all the way over to Moresby's, so I assume we're not going to be worrying about the invasion task force at this time. So that's the plot map, the strategic map. 3D world view, well, it exists. We should probably wait till the sun comes up, because right now all I can see, and I hope you can see it too, is a few stars, and that's about it. So we'll wait till the sun comes up on that one. Flight deck. This is a really cool feature. If you click on this, you can see where all the aircraft are in your ship. So down here, floor capacity, 35 out of 60. I'm assuming those are the aircraft on the hangars. So 20 in the hangars, 20 on the deck. You can see where the aircraft are located on the deck. You can see the aircraft in the hangars. And then you can see, like, as you issue orders, they'll start moving around this icon here based on where they're at, whether they're spotting, taking off, whatever. You can also see a deck timeline that shows you all the missions that have been ordered. We'll see that a little bit later. Mission chart. This looks like it's pulled straight out of a ready room on some of the museum carriers I've been on, where you can see this. You can switch between the aircraft carriers. They have different you know, silhouettes, if you will, based on the carrier you've selected, different images here. And then you can see the different types of aircraft that are there when you hover over them as well. You can also see squadron information. So you've got VF2 with 17 aircraft, but 20 pilots. So I don't know if this game yet has the ability for a pilot to be injured, but to land and then maybe need to replace the pilot or without the aircraft. Like, I don't know, but in any event, you can see we got more pilots than we do aircraft, which is, you know, I think there's always this notion that folks have in a lot of movies. It's like every pilot has their own aircraft. It's like, kind of, but not really. You could get assigned to multiple different aircraft when you're in the military. You don't always get just one. You might have your name on one. Doesn't mean you're always the person flying that aircraft. But in any event, you've got this information here. Stores don't appear to be in the game yet. I don't know if that means like eventually you'll have a limited number of torpedoes or bombs or things like that. But yeah, so that's a tab. But I think right now, honestly, it probably makes sense to, like, I can't really do a whole lot because it's dark and this is a carrier game. Oh, cool. Now we can see the carrier in the dark. Where's the moon? Is there moonlight? I don't see any moon. I wish you could, like, look. Maybe you can. Maybe there's a way to. Yeah, I don't. It seems like I'm anchored on this. There's a free cam to an extent. I'd like to be able to, like, look up at the sky, but I just end up in the ocean when I try and do that. The camera maneuvers on this game are not entirely intuitive for me, but whatever. That's a very minor gripe. Let's go ahead and do time compression and move forward here. And I'll show you planning missions and things like that in a sec. But let's get closer to daylight, and we'll let our ships move along here. Looks like we're moving at 14 knots, heading 180 degrees. And we got to get closer to about 5:30, 6 o'clock before anything will start happening. You're not launching night operations in carriers at this point in history, so no night caps for our crews here. R and F is go up and down? Okay. I could pre-plan flights, yes, but they won't start spotting the deck until closer to 6. So there's no real reason to do it at the moment. But yes, I could. So like if I click on search here and I wanted to create a search plane, and I guess we might as well do it while the clock runs. You can see here I think we've got an excess of SBDs more than anything. So we're going to use SBDs as our scout planes. We'll use the SBDs. I think the Yorktown had a few more, if memory serves. What has it got? 55. Lexington has... Oh, yeah, Lexington has more aircraft, actually. So let's use the Lexington's SBDs here. We'll patrol at just the default 13,000 feet. Take off at 6:01. That's kind of the earliest I think we can do. And then let's go ahead and set a search pattern here. So you can see you've got the search arc of where this aircraft is going to search. We think the enemy's out this way, but we're going to do more than one search aircraft because who knows if they're really there. We're going to create a couple of search missions, all off the Lexington here, all with SBDs because that's the aircraft we've got the most of. I am going to have some overlap on these patterns just because I think it makes sense. Like, this is a really wide search arc you can see here for a single plane to fly. And so I think it makes sense to have kind of multiple overlapping arcs. They're going to fly out on one of these lines, fly back on the other. So they're not going to see anything right here probably if there's something there. So let's do that. And then you can also change the range. Like if you wanted them to have a shorter range, you can use the button here. And you can see the check mark represents the max range. The solid mark represents the actual. Let's go ahead and pause or slow things down here now that you can see we're starting to get close to missions starting to operate. So we're at 520. But let's go ahead and do this. I wanted to do all Lexingtons. So let's go ahead and send another SBD out to Lexington, and we're going to keep setting these search patterns up. I'm not going to do like 20 SBDs out on search missions, but we'll do 6 or 7 to have a nice coverage of where the enemy might be. All right. I think that's enough. What is that? 5 searches? We got multiple different, and each, like, I think the far left line is the outbound flight, and then the far right line in those cones is the inbound. You could change the width of the radius as well, I believe. You can have multiple aircraft go out also, so you could do that too. But I don't know. I like the idea of just mapping it out like this, and you can see where they're going to fly, and they'll start radioing stuff back to us, hopefully before too long. Now, we did put all these, actually 2 of them are on the Lexington. I put the other 3 in the Yorktown. Wasn't paying too close attention there. So you can see down here on the lower part of the screen, this represents carrier deck activity. So this little marker here, and you can make the map bigger or smaller based on, you know, whatever you want to see. But you can see here right now we've got the Lexington's flight deck selected. And you can see starting at 5:55 a.m., they are going to begin to spot the aircraft on the deck. Now, we saw on that graphic that the aircraft are all pushed forward. So what does that mean? This is not an angled flight deck. This isn't modern aircraft carriers. So all these aircraft that are parked on the deck are blocking the ability to take off. So what they're going to have to do when they spot is they're going to have to go ahead and pull these planes all back to the rear of the aircraft carrier. The planes that are going to take off will take off from the front of the carrier, and then they'll push all these planes back to the front of the deck in order to make room for the planes to land when they come back. So those are flight deck operations in this era, and you can see it's going to be true for both of these aircraft. I don't know if you can, like, can I move some of these aircraft down under here? Like, can I put some of these guys below deck? I don't know if I can right now. It would be nice, because I've got room, because these aircraft carriers have all taken casualties from the previous day's fight. None of them are at their maximum capacity. We've got 25 more spots for aircraft in the hangar deck below. Now, maybe as you get closer to that max, maybe efficiency of loading and things goes down. I'm not sure. But, you know, it'd be nice if I could just pull these guys off the deck and have... Although then you'd have to keep going up and down the elevators, so it'd actually probably be slower in some sense. I'm not really sure. Anyway, let's get closer to 550 so we can see stuff outside, and then we'll take a look at the flight deck operations as they start unfolding. Crew needs to sleep. Yeah, I mean, maybe. You can drag them under, Duke? Okay, I tried to click on it. It didn't seem like anything happened, but... It doesn't, if I click on these, it doesn't look like it lets me select them. I can select the carriers from below deck, the planes from below deck, but I don't see the option to select them on the deck. Gotcha. Yeah, so maybe the final version of the game will let you do things like, hey, keep your aircraft in the rear of the carrier at night, because I'd rather have a clean deck. You know, I don't want to have a foul deck. I want to be able to take off, but whatever. The sun will be rising. We'll see it here shortly. If we go over, actually, if we go, you want to see? Do you want to see the sun? It like points you directly up at the sky when you come back into the map for whatever reason. Where am I? All right, sorry. There we go. Well, so there's the moon over here. I love the graphics in this game. Might not be like AAA quality, but damn does it look good. It just looks so good. It makes me want to be on a ship at sunrise. It just looks so fucking cool. Haze and gray and underway. All right. Let's go ahead and speed things up a little bit. Been there, done that. Yeah, well. I love sunrises generally. Less so when it's my 3-year-old waking me up at 5:30 in the morning telling me it's morning, and I tell her, no, look, it's still dark out. And then she drags me to the window and points at the horizon, and you see just a little bit of sun peeking up over the horizon. It's like, God damn it, child. Go back to bed. All right. So it is now flight deck operations have begun. You see this little radio sort of signal icon up here. You can see here that it's going to tell us that TF-17 is heading into the wind to commence operations. You point your ship in the direction of the wind to be able to take off aircraft, especially, I don't think any of these carriers have catapults. But, I mean, you still do it today, but certainly back then, you want to make sure you've got as much wind coming over the deck as possible. And so you can see that they are slowly moving the aircraft back to the rear of the ship. Now, the game doesn't have, like, individual people on the deck doing it, so, you know, it's just sort of, you see them moving back, but that's fine. I would imagine that would be kind of overwhelming on systems, especially when you're talking about, we've got 100 aircraft on these two carriers. If you started to try and have, like, you know, 100 flight deck personnel doing this work, that would maybe be a little bit much. Also, we'll be able to start seeing some of our escorts soon. Actually, I think I saw one of them. Here we go. So I think I saw a ship on the horizon. Well, this is the other carrier, and they're also beginning to move aircraft back. It is pretty cool when in World War II when you've got like the flight deck full of aircraft ready to take off for a strike. Where you literally just wall-to-wall aircraft packing the ship. They don't really do that anymore for strikes because of the way the catapults work. They need the decks clearer. At least I don't think they do. I haven't been on a ship to say. All right, so we got TF-17 heading into the wind. Now this is going to take a little bit of time. It's going to take another 5 minutes until the spotting ends. We don't necessarily need to watch that all occur. But while this is occurring, we go back to this task force map here. You can see we must be turning here into the wind. If you right-click on a map, you can get more information also. So if you right-click on the map, you can see the wind, which if you zoom in here and you know how to read a map, this little arrow is the direction the wind is flowing. So this to here means the wind is flowing top to bottom with a little bit of an angle. So presumably we're going to turn this task force into the wind here so we can get as much lift on the aircraft as possible. Additionally, you can see radar range for your task force. You can see AAA range and coverage here. And you can see main battery range as well. So the guns on the task forces, their range. You can see weather too. It looks mostly clear. There's a little bit of a front up here, it would appear, a little bit of cloud cover up there, and there's spotty coverage around here, but it looks like it should be a good day for spotting ships visually. And then there's also like a show contact history thing, which is not really relevant yet because we haven't spotted anything. So a lot of good information that you can get on the map in the 3D part of the game, or the not the 3D, the strategic map view of the game. So we're still turning into the wind. We're still getting those carriers ready. The sun is starting to peek up over the horizon right now. Let's go ahead and speed things up a little bit. So you can see the work continues. All right, now you can hear the engines go. Can't really see anyone yet, though. They're ready to take off in pretty low light. I think maybe they're taking off from Lexington, because Yorktown looks... Oh, no, there's one of them. One of them just took off there. I could barely see it in that light. You'll see them pop up there. I'm trying to click on them. If we click over here, we can see air units. So we've got these different search groups. And we can go ahead and click on Short here. W Short. He's flying his Dauntless. He has no loadout, no bombs, so he's not going to be doing any damage as he takes off with the sunrise in the morning. Hey, look, there's a cruiser down there. Is this a Pensacola class? They got this is a treaty cruiser. You got the 2 stacks. Those weird-looking long 8-inch turrets. But this is one of our escorts. Kay Taylor is on deck and preparing to launch. He's not launching yet. S. Adams is spotting. Or this guy's going to take off, so he's exiting this pack of aircraft back here. Give me the go-ahead, sir. Throttle up. Let's go. You can see us turning away from the task. We should be banking away. We're just climbing right now. I don't know if you can... I didn't see. If we go back here and we do a search, we could check that. You can see them showing up on this map now. So if we were to do a search mission... Could we make them armed? Doesn't look like it. Looks like a search mission by default is unarmed. You can make tweaks to range versus loadout for attack strike, you know, when you're launching a strike. So if you go to strike here, you do a flight plan, and for whatever reason the strikes look different. But you could do, or no, actually, sorry, it's down here. So you could do a, we don't have a target, so I guess I could just pick a spot on the map, for example. And then we could go ahead and we could do warning range, it's too long. So right now we've got offensive power loadout priority. We could go to endurance, and then you would have, you know, a different loadout based on endurance here. So let's say we chose a SBD-3. With the offensive power loadout, they carry a 1,000-pound bomb and 200-pound bombs. With the endurance loadout, they just carry a 1,000-pound bomb. What about the torpedo bombers? Torpedo bombers with a... I think they just carry a torpedo no matter what. Oh, if you go with offensive power, they carry 100-pounders as well. Or maybe not. So if I go endurance, offensive power, yeah, they don't change their loadout, I guess. So you could do that. We're not going to do a strike yet. We're not going to assume where the enemy is. We don't know. But you can see now that the aircraft are airborne, you've got different missions that show up on the map. And if you want to Let's go ahead and choose this. But if we were to, like, you can see the different aircraft. Some of these guys are on deck. But the guys who are en route, you can see their flight plan. So you can see these guys are going to fly outbound on the left arc, turn, and then come back. And they plan to meet up with the task force right around here at waypoint 3. I assume if you choose, and you can see this other guy's flying here, and then he'll come back around. I assume if you don't, and you can adjust these waypoints too during mission planning anyway. Well, maybe not actually. Can I adjust it before they're airborne? No, it doesn't look like it. Although we probably wouldn't want to send a radio message to any of our aircraft anyway, because it would just give away our position. And also, I don't think I really showed this here, but if we go to the squadron deck here and you want to see deck timeline, you've got this cool little... And again, if you've ever been on a carrier, the museum carriers is what I mean. For World War II, they've all got like these little like see-through glass that you can write on with like a grease pencil. And they usually have like examples of what this would look like. And it would look like kind of like this, which is pretty neat. All right, so... USS Lexington's search planes are airborne and underway. Yorktown are also airborne and underway. Or some of them, anyway. Looks like they're trying to respot the deck. Lexington is... Mission spot search. Mission takeoff search. Why did it look like they were adjusting the decks already to move these... Or these aircraft to spotting the mission aircraft? I don't know why there's 2 aircraft in the front here. What are they doing with that? I don't know. There you go. Nice and clear. Not a lot of cloud cover as we climb up to altitude here. I don't think I can do anything with the aircraft once they're airborne. I think I just have to trust the AI to know what they're doing. Now, eventually, with the game, when they do launch it fully, they do want the ability to have aircraft be pilotable. They do have a mode where you can try that out, but it's not in this game right now. So you can see the sun's definitely cleared the horizon now, and it's getting lighter and lighter all the time now. So let's go ahead and, I guess, maybe go back to the 3D map and or back to the operations map and maybe speed things along as more of these aircraft get airborne. And wait to see what we see. I don't want to send any strike aircraft out for a mission when I don't know where the enemy is yet. So we'll wait to plan that strike till they're out. So I jumped ahead a little bit in this video. I'm not exactly sure. We're getting close to an hour, and I don't want to run this thing for like an hour and a half. But we haven't really seen anything yet because we've been taking a long time getting comfortable with the game. So we'll probably wrap this up in the next 10 minutes or so. But I guess we'll see. We've got our planes that are going out on their patrols. We'll see what they discover. I did add an additional patrol. We jumped like 20 minutes ahead. I did add an additional patrol just to have, or actually 2 additional patrols, just to have a little bit better coverage on what we see out here. We can see our aircraft are beginning to make progress out here toward the general direction of where these suspected enemy ships were. 7 dive bombers seems like a lot to send out on patrol, but I guess to make sure that you've got sufficient coverage, it does make some sense. But yeah, we're at 6:40, so planes have been up for over a half an hour now. Now, we could also see the enemy send planes out toward us, so that is worth being aware of. I guess we're heading back south out of the wind. You know, the waypoint here is where they come back to the boat, but we're not heading up that way. Were the waypoints based on us sailing into the wind? Because they all seem to expect to meet up with us over here. And our task force is headed on this way. I don't know if I need to move a waypoint up this way or what. Oh, shoot. Shoot, shoot, shoot. Pause. All right, so we have detected something. Who is it? It's probably search 6 or 7. Looks like they're about to go directly over an enemy contact here. 2 small ships, 1 large. Unknown contact bearing 138 miles. It shows a flat top icon, but it's yellow, which means we don't know what it is. I'm assuming it's not me. Now, do we want to risk planning a flight against them? We don't know. We haven't been spotted yet. There's no sign of enemy patrols yet. Do we want to send a raid out on these guys? They could be an escort force. We could, and that was the thing with Coral Sea, right? Historically, the day before, both sides sent strikes against task forces that were not the main body. But I think we should plan a raid. So let's do this. Let's plan a strike against the unknown contact. Nav strike 8. Call sign Sugar. Let's use... Yorktown has had dive bombers pulled off of it. Do we want to use both task forces or just one? Contact 9 as the target. Warning, 354 nautical miles. Does that mean they can't get there? I don't know. Okay, normal departure, offensive power. We will do a raid of... Yeah, so I think this is where they think they're going to meet the boat. Which again, if our patrol planes are up here, thinking they're going to meet the boat up here. We're going to need to waypoint the boat up this way. Otherwise, I don't know that they'll make it back to the ship. I don't think I can adjust. Well, I don't know. It doesn't look like I can change it. Sorry, patrol planes. All right, 25 dive bombers, 9 torpedoes. Let's send 6 escorts. I don't want to send all my fighters because if there's an enemy strike, I want to be able to meet them with a competent air group. But I will send a few fighters, so we'll send up 6. That'll leave us with 25 to intercept. Let's make it 7. That'll leave us with 24 to intercept. We'll be going, you can see over here on the right side, we'll have 31% fuel reserve, so we should actually be okay. Normal launch method. So we should have 4 minutes to spare between landing starting and landing finishing. And arming will take only 7 minutes. That seems low. Spotting ends at 7:25, so our aircraft will be off in the next 35 minutes. £25,000 bombs, 5,500-pound bombs, and 9 torpedoes. I don't know if that's enough to kill them. I don't know. I mean, we could send the Lexington group as well as a separate strike. But I don't know that these are bad guys yet. I mean, I'm pretty confident they're bad guys. I don't know that they're enemy flat tops yet. And maybe waiting a few minutes will give me that answer, but I'd rather start the planning phase now for the mission. So let's go ahead and resume. They're going to go right over the supposed enemy task force. What is it again? Which group is this? Search 7. This is J. Nielsen. I mean, that's a pretty good... There's some clouds, but you should have a pretty good sense of what you're flying over. So we'll see. I guess if you get shot down, you'll know. Now they might be right under these clouds. I don't see the contact he's reporting though, so should be like right in front of him, right under this cloud that's forming. I don't know if that's a draw distance thing, but sure looks like those clouds are just kind of forming up real quick. I don't think clouds form quite that quickly. Alright, dudes, where are they? They're spotting. Enemy surface force? Okay, so I don't see it there, but it does look like the contact was updated to be a surface force. 1 heavy cruiser, 3 small ships. I hope that's not what it is. I hope it's a carrier force. That's also why I don't know what I'm looking at here. What did I... What is this? I hit spacebar. Oh wait, there's a carrier over here. Oh, I guess it's unidentified. So I hit spacebar when I'm on the plane, and the map changes. Which is interesting, but like if I hit spacebar, then it takes me to this screen, which I guess is like what the pilot sees. So maybe it's still just on the horizon through the clouds. But it does look like they have spotted for sure 3 hostile, 2 destroyers, and a heavy cruiser. And then they've got unidentified. Oh, there's a carrier spotted. Confirmed. Confirmed. Carrier force. All right, boys. Now is the time. Let's get Lady Lex planned as well. So we've started spotting on Yorktown. Let's also start planning for a strike on from Lexington. We will send, so we're leaving what? Yorktown's going to leave 7 escorts, or 7 fighters to intercept incoming enemy strikes. We'll have 21 fighters to intercept. We'll send 3 escorts, which is a paltry figure, but it might be enough to keep a section or 2 off the bombers. And we're going to send everybody else out. Okay. Target 9. Normal departure, 33,000-pound bombs, 12 torpedoes, 6,600-pound bombs, 3 F4F escorts. Again, it's a paltry escort, but... Alright, so... Can we see... Can we see what's out there? Miyoko. So I can't actually see, like, the 3D... Oh, here I can. Sweet! Alright, so here's the enemy cruiser. And I think the carrier's over here. The Suikaku. I don't see anyone else. Look at that smoke coming out of her. Her exhaust along the side of the ship. Kind of an interesting concept. The other one here, the Shokaku. Okay. So we've spotted them first. That's good news. Maybe we'll get a little mini midway. Assuming we can find them. It's never... Not necessarily... Oh no, enemy fighter probably. They're going to spot us. I don't think there's any way I can just get one fighter up to intercept them. I think they would slot in after the strike, which is planning to take off. So the enemy is going to find me, because we're in the process of spotting the deck for this raid, which we're planning. You can see the elevator going down to bring aircraft up. You can see aircraft are being moved back on the deck. So in no position to launch a cap. Perhaps we should have had one up previously, but I wanted to make sure that we had sufficient aircraft to scramble against an enemy strike. Now they're going to spot us, which means they're also going to turn north a little bit. I don't know if I can edit my strike at all. Can you edit the strike once it's green light? Be nice if you could. I don't see any option to do that, though. If we go to missions... I don't have an edit mission option. It's not lit up. Not sure why. They're still on the deck. You should be able to say, hey, make this course change. Maybe that's just a fact of it still being a demo. Because as soon as they report back, these guys are going to turn into the wind, which is up this way. I don't know if they'll wait till after they're done spotting. If they wait till after they're done spotting, we might be close enough to find them. But, yeah. I do like this spacebar thing where you can see the composition of the fleet. Well, maybe what we'll do is we'll change course. I mean, I'd change course so the enemy isn't as likely to find me on their eventual raid that's going to hit us. But then that would risk our own planes crashing into the sea on the way back. But you can see here, rear elevator being used to bring up aircraft. They're almost in front of the rear elevator, but we've gotten 5 aircraft in position in the rear, and we've got more on the deck. The forward elevator is also being used. That rear elevator is going to have to be shut off here momentarily, because we're not going to have any room for more aircraft to come up it. But they're using the forward elevator, or at least the middle elevator. There's 3 elevators on this thing. I don't know how many fighters the enemy will send with a raid. I'm hoping the 21 or so I'm leaving behind will be enough. Can they maybe do one more drop? I don't know. Anyway, we've still got another 15 minutes of spotting here as things get ready. That's the Yorktown. The Lexington is also going through the process of spotting aircraft here, you can see. She's got a different elevator configuration, of which I'm not sure exactly where. But you can see they're backing aircraft into position, so they've got a slightly different spotting process. You can expedite spotting too, I believe. But they're just wiggle, 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 wiggle. Okay. General quarters sounded on the Yorktown? Did they confirm that aircraft is hostile? They did. It's a visual contact now, so presumably the enemy would know where we are. We still have a visual on this carrier task force. They're still heading south for the moment. Yorktown is engaging enemy aircraft. Are we shooting flak at it? What kind of aircraft is it anyway? I'd like to be able to just double click on this thing to... Where is it? Alright, comms intel. According to a message we received, the enemy has detected our location. We still have visual on the carrier task force, it looks like. Still says visual anyway. Last report 0 minutes ago. They have not turned yet. Can't tell if they're turning. They don't look like they're turning quite yet. My hope is that they wait till after they spot their aircraft and only turn into the wind. If that's the case, then we will be on our way before they make an adjustment, and I would expect that we would find them. If they turn now, an hour of seaway between us and when we get there, they may escape our attack. I really can't afford to change my direction because of where we're anticipating our planes coming back. I should have flown my planes to come back in the direction of the wind where the scouts were coming back, so we could have a better chance of getting everybody back on deck. But that's weird that the float plane, like where their return destination was different, but anyway. So we've been detected, and we've been going for over an hour now, guys. So I think what we will find is we will find the next episode to be particularly interesting, where we actually launch this strike, which we've prepared, and we see what the enemy has in store for us as well. But for now, anyway, I will leave you on this cliffhanger of Task Force Admiral, a game which is out. Well, the demo is out on Steam. You can download it. You can play it yourself. They also have a Kickstarter going to fund a physical edition. And, yeah. Hope you guys are enjoying this look. Until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.